Sportscast presents Hoops Talk, hosted by Alabama basketball legend Erwin Dudley and sportscast contributor Ryan Krista. All basketball, from college basketball to the NBA. Listen to Sportscast Hoops Talk on digital radio, on the app, on your smart speaker, on Twitter, YouTube, Twitch.tv, and Facebook. Sportscast Hoops Talk. Rhythm, debate, layup, and dunk. Sports Talk Hoops Talk.
Welcome, everybody, to Hoops Talk, presented by the Sportscast. Today is February 27, 2022. If you're not yet subscribed in all our channels, YouTube, Twitter, Twitch, Apple Podcasts. And if you have Apple Podcasts, please leave a review because that will benefit us a lot. Here today, we have our usual duo here. I'm Ryan Krista, and I have Mr. Erwin Dudley. How are you, sir?
I'm great, man. How you doing?
Good. Yes, another week has gone by. You know, we have week 2 of our show. Happy to be back with you. Erwin, you had a big special weekend here down in Tuscaloosa, T-Town there. Tell us a little bit what went down this weekend with you.
Man, it was a great weekend. We got a chance to celebrate our 20th SEC championship anniversary. Can't believe it's been 20 years since we was able to accomplish and win a ring here at the university. So we didn't get a chance to do it our 10 year. So we were all able to get together on yesterday, and I hadn't seen some of my teammates in about 10, 15 years. Some of them, you talk to them, but you hadn't seen them. And so for them to be able to come down and, for us to be able to touch the court, to be on the court, with each other, and seeing the coaches and the managers, they were there as well. It was a real special moment. My kids, my younger 2 kids, they got a chance to kind of experience and see, some of the things that I've done at the university. My oldest daughter at the time, when we won, my oldest daughter, she was actually 2. She was actually just born. So now it's been 20 years, and so it's been it's been crazy. But she able to see that allowed them to, and seeing my teammates and being around them and laugh and joke and stuff. So it was good.
That's awesome. It seems like quite an experience. Who are some of the names people might be familiar with that were on your team at Alabama?
So myself, Rod Grizzard, Mo Williams. He played in the NBA for a long time. He played with the Cavs. He played with Utah. Antoine Petway. He was on that team. Well, he's an assistant at Alabama still right now currently. Ernest Shelton, you may know Ernest Shelton. He was one of our shooting guards. Kenny Walker was was the other big that we had that played with me, and the other guy Reggie Rambo. So it was a bunch of us though. It was a lot of guys.
Now, did you guys all come to Alabama around the same time? Oh, it looks like
the other guys, but everybody else, they were able to make. A couple of coaches, they couldn't make it because they had games as well, but everybody else, they made it down.
Awesome. Yeah, sounds like great. And Alabama won yesterday, so that's even better, right?
Yeah. They played well. They jumped out real high, and then I think it was about like 20 at the half or something, 18 or 20 or something like that, and they ended up letting them get back into the game about 6-8 points. And then they pulled back away. They pulled away from them, at the end. And so it was a up and down game, but so like I said, at the end they stayed up and they was able to get a good win.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I think the 2 most intense SEC coaches with Coach Oates and Coach Martin of South Carolina.
Oh yeah.
I don't know. We might do, as a, after see, coach's hot seat. I don't know if Coach Martin will be there much longer, but yeah, we'll see. Once.
Yeah, they hadn't been. After that, I think that after that win that they had over, and after that, what Final Four, Elite Eight, that
Yeah,
run they had.
Final Four. Yeah,
It's been it is they've been kind of struggling over the last
yeah,
few years.
absolutely. Yeah, I think they're kind of hanging on to his laurels with that Final Four run because I don't think he'd be here for us. But
Hmm.
they got women's basketball. They're okay, I guess.
Hmm.
So.
Oh yeah.
Yesterday it seemed like I kept on checking my calendar. I kept on thinking it was March. It was crazy. I know you guys
Yeah,
were
yeah,
busy,
yeah.
with your, having, good time down there. But top 6 teams in the rankings this week all lost.
Oh yeah. I mean, like right now, I think some of the teams a lot of the teams that higher seed teams, they kind of already know where they're going to fall, and so some of them they may not play as hard as you would like them to play because they already know their seeding, so they don't play as hard, but. Um, that's to be expected. You got some teams they're fighting. They're going to be jockeying, trying to get better seeds in the NCAA tournament. And some teams they're going to be jockeying it because they want to make their case to the committee, and so they don't want to be the first 4 teams out or either the second 4 teams out. So they're gonna play extra hard, some of those teams, because they know, like, they need some good quality wins to add to their resumes, and so I was kind of shocked to see that many teams lose yesterday. St. Mary, they beat Gonzaga, and Auburn, they lost to Tennessee, and Tennessee. I mean, it's kind of hard. It's hard to play them up there anyway, and they do have some good quality players as well. So it was it really didn't shock me. And Kentucky Kentucky, did they go down too, I think, as well.
Yeah,
Kentucky went
Arkansas.
down.
Yeah,
Yeah, Kentucky. Yeah, they went down to Arkansas. And, I mean, Arkansas is probably one in the SEC, especially one of the toughest places to play. I mean, their fans are passionate and they get behind them. They get behind the team and so they get that place rocking. So I'm really not surprised that happened with them. That Kentucky went down, and Kentucky's been playing really well though. If Kentucky's been, I mean, they've been dominant. I mean, I watched them play against Alabama. I watched them, both times, and I mean, the way they play the game of basketball, the way they play is really, really, they play like you're supposed to, like you should play. So I wasn't surprised by that. So really, like I said, I really don't think it was. I mean, I don't think it was a bunch of surprises. I mean, like I said, teams are still trying to get there. They're trying to get some tournament solidification going. So I mean, and coaches know that, and the players know it as well. Cause I mean, I've been in that situation. You think we had, I think it was 20. We had 21 wins that year. My sophomore year at Alabama, and you thinking that you've done enough to get into the tournament, and then you don't hear your name called, and it ain't, it's not a good feeling, because you feel like, oh, we won 20, we won 21 games, but for them to tell us, say, oh, your strength of schedule is weak, and so but then I think that it set us up for the next year though, because we end up playing in NIT, and we got some more time to play together on the court, and we were able to go on the road and win some games. So I think that helped us to come back in 2001, 2002 season, in order for it to help us win the SEC regular season title. So I think that benefited us a lot.
absolutely. Yeah, seems like it worked out good for you. I think, all these teams that lost on the road. And I think, like
Yep.
you said, going into some of these hostile environments, whether it be the little gym, at St. Mary's in Moraga, California, or, a cathedral in college basketball like, Bud Walton,
Hmm.
you know, when, teams are, like you said, Arkansas still playing, I think they're in the tournament, they've done enough, but,
Oh yeah.
they don't like to lose at home. And I think, extra motivation, and then, there's always a surprise, like Arizona losing to Colorado. Like that's like okay,
And some
that's more
teams,
like a blip on the radar. Arizona's had a great year. They go and play a mediocre at best opponent.
yeah, yeah,
They have
Colorado.
their sights set on the Pac-12 tournament and
Yes.
beyond. That's
Hmm.
kind of like it's
And,
not
and some,
really. Yeah.
At this time of year, some teams, like you said, some teams they're going to slip and they're going to have extra motivation. I mean, just think about how if you go back and look over the last few weeks or so, look how Kansas has been playing. I mean, they went on the road and played down to Baylor, and Baylor beat them. And that's I don't think it's an upset because Baylor is actually a good team. They're a top 10 team if you look at it. So I don't think it's an upset. I just they just I mean Baylor was at home and Kansas might have had an off night. They could have had an off night. They could have been a couple calls that didn't go their way or whatever. It may have been. So it's a lot of different factors that you have to look at that goes into the game. But I think that like I said, I think that with Kansas losing to Baylor, I don't think that will will kind of that won't hurt them in the tournament or even in the NCAA tournament or the Big 12 because at the end Kansas they still have enough on their roster to actually win the NCAA tournament.
Yeah. So to me, I mean, when you look at some of these losses, like how do they respond? That next
Yep.
week, because you can afford, these top teams can afford a loss, but you don't want to create the have of losing. So how are they going to respond going into this last week of the regular season, or Gonzaga's case, the West Coast Conference? So now they don't play again until next Monday. So but I think a lot goes into this with a lot of cancellations in the middle of the year. This has been a very busy week or two for these teams because they've kind of looked at these weeks and squeezed a lot of games in. So I think teams, the travel, whatever, wear and tear, I mean, these are just still college athletes. So,
Mm-hmm.
I think a lot goes into that. So you don't have the energy to go on the road, if it's been your third game in a week in a road, kind of explain some of these losses. But it just as the mysticalness of college basketball as you head into March, anything can happen.
Yep.
Going into this last week, is there a particular team you've seen this week that you're going to really see how they finish their season this week? Maybe a title contender, that you've seen, like I got my eye on them. They may be a dark horse and maybe a blue blood. What's a team you got on your radar you're really looking to
So
watch?
so the one team I don't think that they I don't think that they have I don't think that they have a chance to win the NCAA tournament. I watched Memphis play over the last few months or so, and Memphis, they're making a claim right now to to kind of be the first four the last four in. And so they've been playing some pretty good basketball. They beat they beat Wichita State today, at home. Pretty good. And so, if you had asked them, Coach Hardaway, probably a few months ago, that he think their team will be even contending or even being talked about as being an NCAA tournament team, he probably would say no because they lost they lost a lot of, I think it was like 5 games straight. It's 4 or 5 games straight, and then we end up Alabama ended up going up there playing them, and they beat us. They beat us at home, but Memphis, I think, is one of those teams that they have enough talent on their roster. Like once if they get hot and get to playing well, I mean they can actually do some things. They have some really talented guards. They have some bigs as well that can do some things. So I think that Memphis is probably a team that you kind of look at like if they can keep the momentum going. The way they are doing now, I think that they could definitely give a be I think that they can win a game or two in the NCAA tournament once they get in there. I don't think they can win it, but they can win a game or two.
Yeah, I always look at these teams that sneak in, who play in Dayton that first weekend. There's always seems to be one team, who uses Dayton, maybe as a chip on the shoulder that they were sent there and catapults them, get that first game under the belt, where other teams, they get to, wherever the site is, and they got that nerves. Well, this team, playing Dayton, they got their nerves out of the way and they're able to move, play more confidently. It seems, whether it's, Syracuse a couple years ago, or I think, VCU, there's always things, not every year, but you always see one team, go from the first four, as they call it, to, maybe the Final Four at best, but, usually, Sweet 16, Elite Eight. So it'll be interesting to see, 2 weeks Selection Sunday. So, we'll be breaking down some brackets here in a couple of weeks, which is exciting to, that possibly, that what we have up in the horizon. With that saying, I two people who are always on our brains here this last couple of weeks, Jerry Palm of CBS Sports and Joey Brackett, I mean, they have no influence on it, but they kind of know how that committee is. So, like we put a lot of stock into what they say, because they, more times than not, they're getting, high percentage, guessing, where I'm like, I'm watching these two teams play, and I'm like, what's comes to my mind is, what's your idea? The debate over this time of year is, you got the Blue Bloods, who may not have a great record, who played a tougher schedule, or you got a team who won a whole lot of games from a smaller conference, who got unlucky in a conference tournament. Where do you stand in that debate?
I mean, I think that, I think it kind of depends on the team and the program. I think that you have some teams that go and they're able to, they play a tougher schedule, so it's always a lot harder. Versus if you're playing like some of the smaller schools, they may not play a tougher schedule because they're a smaller school. But you have to look at them as well, kind of the same way you look at a blue blood team, because those smaller schools, they're coming into the tournament. They're coming in to really, really prove something. And sometimes you have those bigger blue blood teams. They look at, some of the players, their mindset is, we don't have to prove anything because we have a certain name on the front of our jerseys. And so I think that, some of those smaller schools, they like to come in and they like to make a statement, because they look at it as, how it is when you see a so-called smaller school beat up, the Blue Blood or Duke or Kentucky or what have you. You see how people, they go crazy about that, because it's like, it's something that, you don't look at. You don't think that can happen. And so it does happen nowadays more often than not. So, I would kind of lean towards. I mean, I just lean towards. I think I would lean towards the smaller school, because I think those schools right there, if you really watch them, they bring a certain type of energy to the tournament, to the NCAA tournament. I mean, you just think about, how many schools, how many brackets get busted every year by a smaller school that nobody knows about and nobody watches on TV, as other than, their fan base and, a couple other people around the country. And so you have these blue bloods that you see every single week, week in, week out. They're on TV, they're doing this, and, something, and that, those guys from those smaller schools, they see stuff like that, and it's motivation for them, because you go out and beat a blue blood, then it looks good to you. You can say, we beat such and such, we beat Kentucky, we beat Duke, we beat whoever in the NCAA tournament. I mean, that's a good thing. I mean, that'll be something else. That's something that sticks with you.
Yeah, this is, and that debate, the other debate is, with these smaller schools, traditionally one big conferences, you have a great regular season, but you have one bad game in a conference tournament, and there goes your whole season. That's always the debate. Conference, like this next week, love conference tournament week, but I always feel bad, seeing a team that is like a Murray State always seems to be at the top of the Ohio Valley Conference,
Yeah.
It just goes beyond John Morant. John Morant that was a special team, and they have a special team this year. But they're always at the top of that conference, winning close to 25 to 30 games every year, But there's been a couple of times where, they stumbled, you catch a hot shooting team, in a neutral site, and there you go. At best, you ended up at the NIT, So it's always, there's a lot of money in these conference tournaments.
Oh yeah.
Especially for these smaller bid leagues, you get those games on ESPN, and those teams depend on those revenues. So there's merit in having a conference tournament, but there's also merit, having a great regular season and sending your regular season champion to the tournament, And but I love it, but I hate it at the same time, Coming from, I graduated from Liberty University, where we're a 3-time, Atlantic Sun champion, hopefully 4-time. But next week, we won our conference, but we have a bad week next week, in one game, that's our season,
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
And we don't, our schedule isn't we're not in that upper echelon where I'm talking about these small schools. We didn't have enough quality wins usually, or quality schedule, but life in the small schools,
Yeah. I understand. I mean, like you said, I mean, you have teams that have can't they've they don't play such a tough schedule, and then they come in and then it can affect them in a negative or positive way. It kind of depends on the team and the players. I mean, like I said, a lot of those smaller teams, the Blue Bloods, the team, their Blue Bloods, they don't scout them, they don't see them on TV.
Yeah.
And so again, those smaller schools, they do have motivation to come in and try to and bust the brackets, upsets, and it's and then for the Blue Bloods, you worked hard and you've done all this work, and then you come in and lose to a so-called a smaller school. I mean that that hurts as well. I mean because you put all that work in, you battled against some of the other top teams in the country, and then you come in and you lose to I don't know, a team that people don't consider as a high major college. I mean, it could be both ways. So, it's hard. Like you said, one loss, and you don't know because you don't know how you're going to play night in and night out. Only thing that you can kind of control. You can kind of control what you do, and like they said, defense. Your defense has to always be on point each and every night because your offense is not going. Some nights you're going to have some hard time scoring. You never have the same night scoring every single night in, night out. And so if your defense is not up to par to help you, when you're not scoring, then you're going to lose. And so those teams that establish themselves as a defensive minded team and that can really defend, those are probably some of the teams that are able to advance in the tournament because they play defense.
Absolutely. I think, the 2 Ds when it comes to conference tournament is depth and defense.
Yep.
For all the reasons you said with defense, but when you're going to these conference tournaments, you're playing, multiple games in a row. Like if you want to make a run, you're going to need probably a player or two who may not played a lot of minutes throughout the year to kind of step up, whether it's foul trouble or, you just run out of legs, I remember years ago, I don't know, it was probably around 2007 or 8, 6 or 7. Syracuse had to win 5 games in 5 days in the Big East with a guy named Jerry McNamara. The guy was unconscious. They were a middle of the road, the best team throughout the regular season. You had to wait. They had to play Tuesday through Saturday, Madison Square Garden. Took the team on his back.
Yep.
Won the conference tournament, but literally they got to the NCAA tournament. A week later, and they couldn't move. They were dead. Everyone had this high expectations. But you spend so much energy. If you don't, when you rely on, we don't have that depth, in the conference tournaments, But, we're close, and I think my team of the week this week, has got to be the Duke Blue Devils. We talk about teams going on the road and losing. His team went in front of 30. Speaking of Syracuse, in front of 32,000 people yesterday. I know Syracuse isn't the world beaters, but it's a marquee game that Syracuse has had circled for a while. It's a big game. Coming from this area, like a lot of people go to this game. It's Coach K's last time to Carrier Dome, and they went out there and at 14-0 before Syracuse even knew what hit them. And I think taking care of business on a game like that. Flexing their muscles, kind of showing, what type of team they could be, and I think they started off strong, and they had a couple of head scratching losses in the middle of the season, and I think people kind of wrote them off. Okay, maybe this isn't. But now I'm thinking if they have half that effort, in a lot of these games, they're going to at least make it to the Final Four. AJ Griffin, Paolo Ventura, like Wendell Morris, he's a veteran point guard. This team's good. and, And when they're hitting on all cylinders, it might be the best team in college basketball. A year where there's no great teams.
Yeah. I think I only thing I would add to that is that like you did mention that this would be Coach K's his final game in the Carrier Dome, and this will be his final ride NCAA tournament in the ACC and all that so I think that I think that the players, they know it, they sense it, and I think that I definitely think that they're going to put a little bit extra emphasis on winning, just because this is the final season. I don't think that they want to be the team that kind of that kind of took Coach K. I don't think they can really affect his legacy, but I think they want to take Coach K out on on the high, and so I think that they do have that little extra motivation. Versus, because they're really playing. They're playing for themselves. But they're also playing for their coach. The guy that they decided to come and play for, and they're playing for the university as well. But I think that for the most part, it's the coach that they're playing for, because he recruited them there, and so they want to do something special for him. So I think that they will definitely have a little bit extra motivation to play it and play it, win for him.
Absolutely. So we'll see. How the regular season unfolds this week, and how championship week starts for the smaller schools, and we'll recap this next week. Before we end, we'll talk a little pro basketball, NBA here. So we obviously had some trades, right before we talked last week, with the big one being the Simmons to Harden trade.
Yeah,
we haven't seen Simmons yet. Hopefully, see him soon.
Yeah.
I think they talked, maybe a week or two, get his legs, under him, but we have seen James Harden the last for a couple of games today and the other day. Been quite impressive, him and Embiid.
Really has.
What's your thoughts?
I mean, I coming in, I think that Philly, I think that it was good for them to get Harden. And we've never doubted, and we never doubted Harden, for doubting him as being a regular season player. Like he's never not performed in the regular season when he's healthy. The thing that always gets me, or that always the thing that comes up with him is that in the playoffs time, he never really shows up. And so that's the thing. So, but man, I'm telling you, he's been lighting it up, though. Seriously, like he's been playing really well. I mean, over the last couple of games, he's done. I mean, he's done way better than I think. A lot of people thought that it'll take him some time, and but he stepped right in, and he played some high minutes as well. I mean, today if you look at it, he had 29 points and he had 16 assists, 10 rebounds. I mean he's playing well. Embiid had 37 and he's 9 rebounds. He's still playing. Embiid is still playing like the MVP of the league right now. He hadn't after the All-Star break, he's continued to keep his play at an all-time high. I mean, they are playing the Knicks though, but but still,
Knicks and Timberwolves,
yeah. So still, but still, if you look at it though, like I said, they're playing well. If I think that if they continue to get some help, if Tobias Harris, if he continues to elevate his game to keep playing. And definitely Tyrese Maxey. Tyrese Maxey, he's been playing well even before Harden. But if he continues to keep his numbers up, like today he had 21 and 7 rebounds. I mean, if he continues, because he can score the ball, and he also likes to defend, and you definitely need some people that can defend, especially when you're playing with Harden. I mean, you do have Embiid, which is is your rim protector, but you don't want to rely on him so much because you don't want him to get into foul trouble, and so you do want you don't want that. But also too, Paul Millsap. I mean, I think he's a key as well for them. Him coming over from with Harden in the Brooklyn trade. I think that he's a key too, because they're gonna need some guys to come off the bench and score, and play some big minutes at time. Danny Green. I know Danny Green. He's not playing and moving around and like he was a few years ago, but he's still a key part of the team's success. I mean, so he has to come in and give them some high quality minutes. Especially this last stretch of the regular season, and then on to the playoffs.
Yeah. I think my only concern to the Sixers is losing Curry. Like you talked about Danny Green, so he can shoot the ball.
Yeah.
Maxey, okay shooter. Matisse Thybulle, not a shooter. Great defender. Where you consistently you have the shooters around Embiid and Harden, because they're going to draw, the double teams.
Yep.
So you have to hit those open shots.
Yep.
And then with Embiid, he's got to be logging a lot of minutes, because you lost a really good backup center in Andre Drummond.
Yeah, that's true.
Drummond kind of had those great years in Detroit and kind of was not very good last year, with the Lakers, and I think kind of thought it was an afterthought when he was brought into Philadelphia this year, but he really was solid, in those games that Embiid did take it. Couldn't play, put up some solid, and he's doing a good job in Brooklyn. So, I think he's kind of found a niche here, to revitalize his career. So, but I do think for the Sixers, that's a big hole they have to find, it's getting those solid minutes,
But they have Willie Cauley-Stein, and so and I'm not a huge Willie Cauley-Stein. I'm not even a huge Willie Cauley-Stein fan. I wasn't even a huge fan when he was at Kentucky at all. But but he's long. He's long. He can run. He's athletic. So I mean, so they look at that, and so that's something that that's real attractive. Yeah. But if they can possibly get him in the game and get some, if he's motivated to play some minutes and come in and back Joel and give them some rim protection and being able to finish around the basket. I mean that'll be huge to their success as well. I mean he's young. Paul Millsap, Paul Millsap is older, so he can come in and he's going to play some minutes, but I think that I don't think his legs are not as fresh as Willie Cauley-Stein. I mean, Willie Cauley-Stein is he's young, and so he's played in the NBA for some years, so he should have enough experience now to come in and definitely be a solid backup to Embiid, and with that being said, if he does do that, that'll help them as well in the long run.
Absolutely. I worry, with Embiid's injury history that he's if worried of playing logging, 40 plus minutes night in, night out. Well,
Yep.
But, and I know the Sixers will try to, they'll lose a regular season game without making sure they don't log, those crazy minutes,
of course,
because you want to save them for the playoffs, obviously, But foul trouble happens, but you have to have a reliable backup. Last, what did you think of Kyrie last night? That that was kind of an epic Kyrie performance.
I mean, Kyrie's gonna be Kyrie, regardless of what's. I mean, Kyrie is he's a player. I mean, to me, he's a baller. I mean, the numbers and the things that he do, even when he first came back, when they allowed him to play, and for him to come in and he's one of those players that he can kind of impose his will or on a team, or he kind of lets his play do the talking. I mean, and so he comes in and he just plays basketball. He is he's a proven winner, of course. I mean, if you go back and look at, he was the one. Here's the main reason why Cleveland won the title. That shot he hit over Steph Curry, or was it Klay Thompson? I think it was the shot that he hit over him. To clinch that series with them. I mean, Kyrie's been. It's always been. It hadn't been a talent. It's not a lack of talent. It's just the other things that he's he's dealing with, and off the court and all that stuff. I mean, but for them to go into Milwaukee and beat them, and of course, they had a lot of hype surrounding this game because it was because of what happened last year. Um, and so, for him to come in 38, I mean, it's unbelievable. I mean, and then the next person, to Seth Curry, had 19. He's been playing well too since he's come over from Philadelphia. So that was a plus for them. And then, like you mentioned a second ago about Andre Drummond, they lost him. I mean, Andre Drummond had 17 and 12. That's something that, like I said a few minutes ago, that's something that Willie Cauley-Stein, he may not be able to give you 17 and 12, but he can possibly come in and give you 6.8 rebounds or 8 points and 10 rebounds or something like that. That's a plus. That's minutes that Embiid wouldn't be logging. So you're giving him a rest if you do that. And so, but for the Nets to come in and win, and then, like I said, KD is still not there. I mean, that's a huge win. That's a huge win on the road. I mean, I seen Antetokounmpo. He had a chance to tie the game, and he missed a 3-point basket. But but again, for them to go on the road to beat them, it's a big plus for that organization.
Absolutely. I think that was a statement. If Kyrie himself can be, what happens when they put Ben Simmons and Durant, it's going to be interesting because I don't know how far they can move up the standings, because they've had a rough couple weeks,
Mm-hmm.
Because Hearsay, I don't know. Harden was dogging it with the last couple weeks, I don't know the whole, I'm not gonna go over a guy if he's injured or not injured, but they're literally playing, because this roster without Kyrie, when they had Harden, it's not very good.
No, not at all. Not at
No,
all. But
so
I mean,
they're complementary players and they fit their role. They're brought in for a reason,
mm-hmm.
not to be, the focal points, but so it's not really fair to them to play without, a star on the court.
Mm-hmm.
In that case, they lost a lot of games in a row with like 10 or 11, so they fell way back in the standings, Now when they get Durant back and Simmons, how far up can they go? Because in the playoffs, obviously, it's all about matchups, So it'll be interesting to see how this next month shapes up,
Yep, that's true.
And especially East. I mean, how much longer can DeMar DeRozan carry the Bulls on the back of it? Yeah, I mean, he's put up some insane stats,
Man,
I think this is like Toronto, like 10 years ago or something.
Yeah, he. Speaking of DeMar DeRozan, I mean, what he did last night, I mean, it was. Whew. I mean, he didn't have enough, to pull it off. I mean, Memphis, yeah, he didn't have.
John Morant put on a show,
Yeah, they did.
For basket,
They did. I mean, Morant he had 46 last night. I mean, just think about it. He had 46, and nobody. The next closest man to him was 12 points. So yeah, but I mean, he carried that team, and they was actually beating Chicago. And Chicago ended up coming back, and DeRozan, like I said, I think the MVP is going to come down between. I think it's going to come down between him and Embiid. I mean, those two guys have been playing really, really good. But I think I will give the edge to Embiid. Not because he's a big guy, but I think that I give it to him because the way he's been playing, over the last few years he's been playing lights out over the last few years or so. I would give it to him. DeMar DeRozan has been playing well, but DeMar DeRozan hasn't been playing as well as he's been playing now in any other stretch. I don't think. And so I will give that edge to Embiid. He's been playing really, really good. He has some extra motivation. But again, going back to Chicago, I mean, they've made some great strides this year. I mean, for what they're doing in the East, I mean, they're playing really good. They lost last night, but they had a chance to win the game last. They just came up short, and so. But again, they're still a team that once the playoffs start, I think that they can give some teams a run for their money. Like I said last week, I don't think that they can win. I don't think they can win a title, but I think that they can come in and I think they could win. They could possibly win a series.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, that's what we said. How does the playoffs, shake up here, who plays who,
Yep.
talking about big men who aren't on a court. Zion Williamson, do we ever see him in a Pelicans jersey again? There's a lot of disconnect, between him and the organization. He doesn't trust, David Griffin, the GM, and then there's this hoopla about how he didn't really welcome CJ McCollum onto the team when they made that trade last, week ago,
I mean,
obviously when he's out there, he's prolific. I don't think they have any interest in trading him because they need him. It's New Orleans.
I mean, honestly, like, okay, you see where he possibly can be, right? Think about it, but he's been injury riddled the whole entire, his whole entire NBA career, and they talked about his weight, how much weight he's gained, and then he's dropped weight and all this stuff, and then you look at a guy, then he got hurt. Got hurt, this summer working out. Then he had to have surgery. Then I think he kind of re-injured or something again, a few months ago. So he's not going to play anymore. He's not going to play this year. I don't think whatsoever.
No.
So this will be his third year, right?
Yeah, about that, and it's barely played. Yeah.
So he's barely played, and you got a guy, for example, CJ McCollum. He's a proven guy. He can win. He can win some games. I mean, he can win your team some games. You see what he's doing. I mean, you got him, and then, I mean, with the core other pieces they have with them, like, I mean, you can't. I mean, why not? He's tradable. I mean, I think Zion is tradable. I mean, Brandon Ingram, you got him. He's a star. You got C.J. McCollum. You got my guy Herb Jones down there. He's playing, yep. And then you still
Justin
have
Riley is a big fan of Herb Jones.
and then you still have some pieces. You still have some pieces there that you can work with and possibly possibly build around. I mean, Zion has been hurt so much. I mean, you really can't. I mean, it kind of reminds me of Greg Oden, kind of like the issue with him not being able to get healthy and all that stuff. I mean, but Zion was a generational talent, so you had to take that chance on him, because of how good he possibly could be. And so I don't blame them for taking him, but I just don't, he just injured. He's gonna have to stick to a strict diet, and I think that he's going to have to really he's going to have to hire some people around him that holds him accountable for the things that he needs to do as a player, and continue to keep his body well, because he could easily gain a bunch of weight because of his body type, the way he is. So he will have to have a team around him that's kind of helping him out, and even hopefully some of the guys the older guys on his team, or either some of the guys in the league that he's grown close to, or knows that they could possibly talk to him and help him out with with nutrition and things of that nature, because I'm sure they have all that stuff at their disposal. He just has to, it's going to be left up to him to be disciplined enough to do it.
Yeah, I mean, I hope he ends up being a Joel Embiid that has the injury struggles that kind of overcomes them.
Yep.
But obviously, you mentioned a name of a guy who couldn't overcome it, and that's Greg Oden. So
Yeah.
Zion Williamson's a freak athlete for his size. He really should be playing middle linebacker somewhere. But yeah. So I think if they can ever get him healthy, with CJ and Brandon Ingram, it's a good, at least if not, and your guy playing center down there protecting the hole, so a team that I don't think their identity defense, and I think that probably the way this roster is constructed, probably work their way in game right now. I think they're a game out with the Trailblazers being intense. I think it's basically them and the Spurs going after that 10th spot. I think the Trailblazers, all the injuries and trades they've made, they're not in a position to win any games really the rest of the year. And that'll be a team, on the playing game. I'm not saying they're going to win a playoff series, but I think they can get into the playoffs within the playing series because you have shot makers like Ingram and McCollum. Last thing I want to hit on before we were Dick in the Western Conference, and that's the Utah Jazz. I've seen them play the last couple of nights.
Uh-huh.
I feel like that's a complete basketball team. They're, with their shooting and defensive, and they just, I think when you talk Utah, whether it's, 20 years ago with Stockton and Malone being a connected unit and that team they had, I got that same feel, with, this team playing now, I think they had some struggles in the middle of the year with injuries, Gobert was hurt and Mitchell was hurt. I think this might be the number 1, 2, or 3 team in the West, when they're healthy, because they want to beat Phoenix today, beat Dallas the other night. They can hit you with 3-point shooting. They defend you all over the court. I think Quinn Snyder is the right coach there. I just really love the Utah Jazz and the way they play basketball.
They do, like you mentioned, they have a complete team. Like you said, if you look at Stifle Tower, if you look at him, if you look at the way Donovan Mitchell's been playing, they've both been hurt, but Donovan Mitchell's been playing lights out. And you Gobert again, like he's your rim protector. He's definitely he's a double a night. He can knock down. He can finish around the basket. Bogdanovich, he's been playing. He's been playing well. He's been playing really well. I think he's one of the X factors. Mike Conley has to continue to keep his game at a high level because they need Mike Conley because sometimes Bogdanovich he'll get caught into a position where he can't score. A lot of teams they're going to key on Donovan Mitchell. So Mike Conley is the guard. Or as a person that needs to kind of get free and being able to move around and be able to being able to score and facilitate and run the offense and score and do a bunch of other things. The other night I think he had 15 points and 5 assists and that's a good number for him. If you go back and look at that Mike Conley that came over from Memphis, Mike Conley was putting up big numbers. I know he's had a few injuries and stuff and. I know he had, and that's kind of might have slowed him down some. But if you just look at it overall, Mike Conley, I think he would be the kind of the key factor as how far the Jazz could go. But again, it's like Donovan Mitchell. He's been playing. He's been playing better than anybody in the league. He's been hurt. I know he's been hurt with the ankle injuries and Gobert. I think he was out with with COVID protocol, and I think he was injured as well. But those are your 2 main superstars, and then kind of everybody else needs to kind of fill in around them. But I think that Mike Conley definitely is a key to their success, and then also I think Bogdanovich as well.
Yeah, and then you can't know, and they bring on a guy like a scorer like Jordan Clarkson, who's really like,
oh yeah,
kind of enjoyed a 6-man role. That guy comes off the bench and his whole job is just to be selfish and score the ball. That's what you want. That your man, like a Mo Williams, okay,
Hey, listen, that's a good thing. He can be selfish. You definitely need for him with him coming off the bench, you definitely need a guy like that to come in and be a spark plug to to continue to keep your offense going. We need guys like that. And then I didn't mention Hassan Whiteside earlier, but Hassan Whiteside is when he's motivated. And when he's motivated, he can do a lot for the Utah Jazz, but he has to be motivated. When Gobert was out, he played some significant minutes, and I seen a few games where he did actually where he was motivated and he put up some numbers. But then come back some other nights, you don't even know he's on the court, and you go back and look at him when he was playing. I think he was Miami. He was trying to get that contract. He was a monster. He was playing. He was definitely one of the players could be possibly one of the top centers in the league that year, and blah blah blah. And then kind of once he got the money, he kind of phased out, and he hadn't been playing with the same type of motivation that he's been playing. Has been playing with it before he got the contract.
Yeah, absolutely. So that's we'll take a look to see if they can continue their form. As we finish off this season. We're still kind of feeling out the process in the NBA. We've only teams have only played 1 or 2 games since the All-Star break, and really since trade deadline, not much. So a lot of the, once we get Simmons back on the court, Durant here for the Nets, we'll have a good idea. Down in South Beach, you got what's his face?
In
Miami, the guy, I'm blanking out. Coming back from injury, they got in a trade.
Jimmy Butler.
Victor Oladipo coming back.
Yeah, I saw that. Yeah, he's coming back. Yeah, I saw that. He's supposed to be coming back. Yeah.
I mean, that's a game changer. You guy coming out, with his type of ability. So, yeah, I think in the next week or so, we'll have a good idea, who, how the teams are forming, running in the shape as they, get ready for the playoffs and, see who's vying for those last play-in spots.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So any other things you want to add, in the way of the NBA here before we close out here?
Man, I'm just excited to see. I said I'm not going to talk about my Lakers. My LeBron. I'm not going to talk about them. They lost to the Clippers again, so that broke my heart. But I mean, like you said, I'm just kind of waiting on it to see how things are rounded out. Over the next month or so. Dallas and Golden State are playing right now. Dallas is, they've taken the lead by 3 points, so I know you're happy about that. By being down by a big number, I told you, it's early in the game and they made a turnaround. But again, Golden State to see how they're gonna play, and once Draymond comes back, and to see what they're gonna do as a team, it's definitely gonna be interesting with them to see what they do once he's back, and Clay continues to get some more minutes and stuff. So it'll be definitely interesting.
Absolutely, like we still need, the Warriors need to get Draymond back. So, there's still some missing pieces here. I think once we're done, with March Madness here and we get closer to April, we'll it's natural how we progress from the NCAA tournament right into the NBA playoffs. So, we've got the flow here going on here.
Basketball overload, baby.
So we got some teams on the bubble playing this week, trying to work their way into the NCAA tournament. So it's big here. Teams trying to catch fire. So a lot going on here in the round ball world here. Until next week, anything else you want to add?
Man, that's it, man. It was a great show today, man. And continue to support the podcast, like, subscribe, and we're gonna keep bringing you some good content.
Absolutely, and hopefully your Crimson Tide get another winner here this week. So
they
need a little bit of help here.
We got one coming up. We got one coming up Wednesday. We need to finish out strong. And then we'll go from there. I won't be able to make that one. I got daddy dude. We got volleyball practice that night, so I won't be able to make it. But I'll be definitely watching. When I can on my phone or wherever it may be.
Absolutely. Shout out though to my guy Darius McGee at Liberty University, 47 points yesterday.
Really?
Holding on the fort. Irwin will, if he makes it into the NCAA tournament, he will be a name to watch. He's about 5'9" guard, second leading scorer in the country at over 23 points a game. He's a streaky guy, but he's got 3 games over 40 points this year.
Really?
With a big feat here, so fun guy to watch. We'll see if we can have some March Madness down there in Liberty. So, always a fun time here and a good time here. And where can everybody find you out online, Irwin?
Irwin Dudley on Facebook, Irwin Dudley 35 on Instagram, and Dudley 35 on Twitter.
All right. You can find me you can find everybody here at the Sportscast one on,
yes, sir.
On every social media platform, Facebook, Twitter, all that, so definitely follow us. Rewatch this episode, find our other sports info, whether you're a big football fan, other sports, everything's still going on at the Sportscast. Yeah. We'll catch you guys later, and then we'll see you guys next Sunday night around 9 o'clock. Have a good night.
Have a good night, everyone.
Thank you.